Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy, Fantasy Football, TITTH number 149. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. We got Nick Davis with us today. Happy Sunday, sir. How are we doing?
Doing good. Glad to be on the weekend. How you doing?
Yeah, can't complain. Doing good. Any big plans for today?
No, chilling.
This afternoon?
I went to a graduation party. Congrats to the 2021 graduates. I know it wasn't a normal senior year, but want to give a shout out to you guys that graduated this year because this was a crazy year. So good job, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. My brother's one of those. Shout out Nick. He'll be on our show tomorrow for hockey. Yep, OZ will be here tomorrow for that, so that'll be good. You can wish him congratulations as well. Yeah, just dealing with these cicadas. You were talking about that party. You had to stay inside the whole time. I'm dueling them myself over here as well. It's just getting to be a bit much. These darn cicadas out here on the East Coast.
It's crazy. I mean, honestly, like the way my mom described it to me as a kid when I was younger, the first time they came around, like they were around me a lot more than they are now. I guess I'm just kind of like oblivious to them. Like I see like one or two every once in a while, but I think as time goes on, they're appearing a lot less and less because apparently back when my mom was a kid, it was like a swarm and like, you know, almost like the biblical sense swarm. So, I don't know. For me, I'm kind of oblivious to them.
I'm getting kind of biblical vibes over here where I'm at. You know, I'm like right backed up to a forest and stuff. Like I'm getting kind of biblical vibes. You know, what I'm seeing out the windows. You know, you got the cats going nuts, pawing at the windows and at the blinds. It's getting to be a bit much right now. So cicadas. I'm not a fan. I don't like them. They stink. They make a lot of noise. They make
like
a lot
stink
of noise.
Bugs.
Not quite that bad, but they're rivaling for sure right now with their volume. So. And volume is king, as we say in fantasy, right? All right, so let's dive in. We're going to get right to it here. We're actually missing a couple of guys today. We're supposed to have Steve and Tommy on. If they somehow jump in, we'll definitely throw them up on the board here, but we're missing our guys right now. Let's jump into some news or snooze. We got your Ravens, Greg Roman, saying they've got a running back group by committee. What are your thoughts here, Nick? News or snooze?
To be honest, it's a snooze to me because I've already known that. Like, there's no way that a running back can take like 300 carries in this day and age. I mean, it will literally tear him up. So he has to do a running back by committee. It's not that one of them can't take control. It's that if you literally give one person the entire load of that offense with a 54% running over 46% passing, that's a lot of damage, and you'll run them into the ground within 3-4 years. So he's just being smart. He's just saying, trying to keep the talent on the team. For me, it's a snooze because I already knew that. It's not going to affect me and my information that comes across because the running backs there are still going to get a lot more running back volume than a lot of other running back committees because they're teams are more focused on passing than the Ravens. Unless there's a philosophical change, I'm not worried about it.
Right. What do you think about J.K. Dobbins' value here? I mean, he's getting drafted in like the 3rd, 4th round in dynasty redraft leagues alike. Is that a space that you're willing or comfortable selecting him at?
J.K. Dobbins, I don't know. I'd probably be more for like the 4th, 5th, 6th round. 3 is a little high for me. I feel like I can get a little bit more specialization and more time specifically because he's gonna be rotating in and out. This is a terrible comparison, but Derrick Henry, we all know that Derrick Henry is going to get the ball. I'm looking for someone that is kind of like in that lead dog sense in that 3rd round because there still will be running backs like that. So for me, that's a little high considering that he is going to be rotating in and out.
Yeah, Dobbins actually was out rushed attempts-wise by Gus Edwards last year. Gus Edwards had about 10 more attempts, but he played in one more game than him. But he did outrush Gus by about like 78, 80 yards or so, had more rushing touchdowns, had 9 rushing touchdowns, which was nice because we like to see him finish in the red zone, right? But to me, it's not necessarily news or snooze. It's more just like the reality, right? Because you have Lamar there. He's the leading running back. No offense in the running back quarterback conversation. He's still a quarterback at the end of the day. But when you rush more than your running backs, he's rushed more than Edwards and Dobbins in back-to-back seasons. He has more rushing yards in them in back-to-back seasons. He did have a little bit of regression last season. We went down from his 2019 number of about 1,200 yards down to about 1,000 yards last year. But the rushing touchdowns are still there. I think he had like 7 or he had 9 last year and 7 the year before that, something like that, in between the 2 years. So he's still going to be the guy that's, stealing the ball in the red zone. They're talking obviously about becoming a more vertical offense. And I think that just will help them leverage their best asset, which is Lamar Jackson, because it will open up some space for him underneath and give him the opportunity to extend plays rather than having run design plays just set up in place, right? So if they can get more vertical, I think it's going to be more difficult for one of these running backs to really eat and have a huge lion's share of the touches. The splits last year, you're looking at 144 attempts for Edwards, 134 for Dobbins, and then Lamar clocked in at 159. So that's a pretty even spread between three rushers. Obviously, Lamar's a quarterback, and he has the opportunity to take a passing play and turn it into a running play. But if they really are serious about flipping that number around, you alluded to it, that 54% run share in the offense. If they're committed to flipping that around, I see more opportunity for Lamar to run than I do even Dobbins, unless Dobbins just really inks himself as an every down back. I don't see them doing that. I think they are going to protect him, like you mentioned. I think this is really just, hey, we still have Gus Edwards. This was just like, hey, Gus is still here article or whatever, reporter blurb, right? And they also mentioned, Justice Hill maturing. I mean, he does literally nothing. He gets like a touch a game. Like, are you buying into Justice Hill? You're a little closer to the situation than I am.
He's the 4th running back in that group. Like, not saying that Lamar is a running back. I love Lamar. I'm a huge Lamar defender. I think it's how the offense is built. It kind of just makes him look like he's looking to run every time. It's not that at all. And I fully believe that if they flipped the script and had a 54% pass share, it would just it would almost make it look like Mike Vick. Nobody was saying that Mike Vick did run a lot, but he was trying to, pass the ball a lot of times. You could just see that he was rolling out and he could use his speed to get more yardage than throwing an interception. And I think that we would see a lot more of Lamar to mature. Right now, I think that Lamar isn't really kind of focusing on passing too much because he knows that he's going to have to run the ball so much. I would love for him to have to focus on passing more because that's how you last in the NFL. I don't see Lamar running this type of offense his entire career and being able to last. Oh, yeah. I want him to be there for, 10, 15 years easily, and we're going to have to start changing that offense. With Rashad Bateman coming in, I completely understand having the offense the same as it is now. But I think that if Rashad Bateman starts showing a little bit more maturity and becomes like that number 1 receiver that he is expected to become, the offense is going to start changing because they didn't have to pay top dollar for a number 1 wide receiver when their offense needed to transition from a running offense to a passing offense. And they have Mark Andrews there. I want to see Mark Andrews get 10 touchdowns receiving. If that happens, that's a great offensive season for the team. And I think that he did that when Lamar has MVP season. So they need to kind of get back to their roots in a sense, but they don't have to exactly change their entire identity right now. Let Bateman mature and, it'll save Lamar and keep Lamar on the team for 15 years.
Absolutely. I agree with that. You got to think about the longevity of Jackson and, rushing for 1,000 yards every year. That may not be the meal ticket to do so. Right. So I'm going to go through a couple of over-unders with you. I would love, by the way, if Mark Andrews had 10 receiving touchdowns. I got him in Dynasty this year. So I would be all over that. I'd be all over some 10 touchdowns for Mark Andrews. Who is going to be the leading receiver in yardage? Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman.
Ooh.
Or someone I didn't mention if you're feeling fruity.
I think the leading receiver is going to be actually Mark Andrews.
Okay. And yardage. We're talking yardage.
Yeah.
Okay.
In yardage.
Okay.
Because the thing is I don't think that Lamar has the arm strength to exactly utilize the deep threatness of Marquise Brown. right now. And I'm just kind of being truthful from what I've seen. Sometimes his ball seems kind of lofty, and it's not like a bullet like Patrick Mahomes does to Tyreek Hill. It's not the same. So I'm going to say Mark Andrews does, because I think that them rushing, constantly and having Mark Andrews block, it opens up a lot of open like seams for him. And Mark Andrews can definitely take it to the house at any time. I think Mark Andrews is kind of like underrated in a sense, just because of the way the offense is built. If he was in like an offense like Kelsey is or Kittle is, he would be up there with them, because he's just as great as all of those guys.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Just needs the opportunity, needs more volume.
Yep.
I was gonna ask you over unders for Dobbins and Lamar Jackson, but I'll just ask you straight up: who has more rushing yards next season, Lamar Jackson or J.K. Dobbins?
Lamar Jackson, because I think the offense still stays, very similar, but I think it's gonna be a reduction from last year from him. But I the thing is I don't like saying that Lamar's gonna reduce his rushing load, because I think that he can break it open at any time. He's one of the best open field runners. So I'm going to say that it's going to be under, because I think the offense is trying to transition to a more longevity driven offense for Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to say he's going to have more than J.K. Dobbins, but it's going to be under like last year's total.
Okay. So Dobbins is going to fit. Well, I'm going to ask you this now. Dobbins over under 800 rushing yards. He had 805 this year.
Ooh.
So 800.
Dang. I'm going to say over that.
Okay. So it's going to be close then. It's got to be close, because Lamar had about 1,005 last year. So he had literally 200 more than Dobbins. So, all right.
I would say Lamar's going to hit like 900 and JK is going to hit like 850. I see that.
So it's going to be pretty much an even split then, because then you're still going to have Edwards mixing it in. Edwards had a 5-yard per average rush attempt. Dobbins had about a 6. So nearly even there. And Gus, to me, I mean, he only had 6 rushing touchdowns last year, I believe, but he's still built for the red zone. Like Dobbins he's got a big frame, but a little body. You know what I mean? Like he can bust through the tackles, but Edwards drives through them.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. We got some Josh Reynolds talk. Looking like he's going to be the number 2 receiver there in Tennessee. Are you buying Josh Reynolds this year? Is this news or snooze?
I mean, Tennessee, before A.J. Brown and Corey Davis were around, they had a lot of guys that were considered their number 2, but would be like a 3 or 4, maybe 5 on some teams. Like, I'm not really buying it in. I think that Josh Reynolds did have improvement last year. I think he played for the Rams. And I think he did have improvement, but I got to see a lot more. Like, I don't think that Ryan Tannehill is in that sense of quarterback where he makes everyone around him greater. He just keeps everybody at the same like level that they're supposed to be at. And I don't think that he's going to be able to elevate Josh Reynolds to like what Corey Davis was like kind of like becoming in Tennessee. So for me, it's kind of a snooze right now until I start seeing a little bit more game film of Reynolds in the offense.
Well, I'll tell you what, his ranking placement's a big snooze on everybody's as far as I'm concerned. Fantasy Pros has Josh Reynolds at wide receiver 70. I have him personally at about wide receiver 60, so about 10 spots ahead. And that's because I am buying into the availability of just more volume. A.J. Brown, for reference, is in my top 5 right now. He's at about number 3 because you just have all this vacated volume. 92 targets from Corey Davis. 65 or 62 from Jonnu Smith, 15 vacated touchdowns as well. Like, Ryan Tannehill, he's been getting it done. The numbers have been there for him. The passing volume is there. They just don't have anyone else there. Who's it? Bateson, Dez Fitzpatrick, Marcus Johnson, Chester Rogers. Who else is going to compete for touches with him? Unless they bring in Julio. I mean, that's about all I can see.
I'm surprised Julio's still not on another team right now, to be completely honest. Like, isn't it past the deadline?
Well, it's not past the deadline. It's just past June 1st.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to happen like right away. Anyway, if they don't get Julio, I'm assuming they don't get Julio because I thought it was already going to happen. But assuming they don't get Julio, I see what happens to A.J. Brown. What happened to Devontae Adams? Like, it wasn't like another receiver really took the number 2 role. It just really put more targets on Devontae Adams' hands.
Sure.
And I see that happening more for AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown's going to have an incredible season because there's no one else really competing for touches. If Tannehill wants to get it to AJ Brown, he will. And I think that AJ Brown's going to become in that Devontae Adams role that he had last year with Rodgers.
Well, I have him ranked as just as high. Right now I have AJ Brown over Devontae Adams in my rankings, and that's just because I don't know what Aaron's going to do. I don't know what the Packers are going to do. I have no clue. If anyone out there does, please share with us in the chat, or my DMs are open. I would love to know. I'm a big shareholder of Aaron Rodgers in fantasy right now in Dynasty League. So yeah, if you got some info, let me know. But yeah, I agree with you. It could be a lot more of AJ Brown. I'm just going to buy some shares of Josh Reynolds as well, just because for the price that he's going at, when the upside that he has, what's there to lose? I mean, there's really not that much risk. He's going as like your wide receiver 5 probably on your roster in fantasy.
He's a flyer. Take a flyer on him, do it, in that sense. For me, it's like a rookie wide receiver. Like, you really don't know what you're going to get from him. But if he's going in 60 to 70 range for wide receivers, I mean, you're really getting huge value at him, and he might just pop off, and you guys can definitely do that. That's absolutely possible. For me, he's going to fall to me. Like, I'm not going to reach for him for sure, but he'll fall.
What do you think about him versus Alan Lazard? If you're sitting in round, I don't know. I'm looking right here. He went in round 22, right after N'Keal Harry, Jalen Darden, Traquan Smith, and Van Jefferson.
I would take Reynolds over all of them. There was one of them. I was the Lazard. I would not take him because, again, you don't know what Aaron Rodgers is doing, and I don't see someone being able to give Lazard what Rodgers did for him last year. So I would definitely take the other guy for sure.
All right, right on. Yeah, I'm going to definitely grab some shares of Reynolds in the back end of drafts. Like I said, there's just very little risk. As long as you, like you said, you don't, try to pull him up your draft board, get cute with it, you should be fine. Should be a solid little grab this year. Last year on a bad Rams offense, he had 52 catches, 600 receiving yards, a couple of touchdowns. That was on about 81 targets. I think he had about 12 yards per catch. It's not bad. It's not bad with the Jared Goff, right? I mean, definitely getting an upgraded quarterback. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next up, we've got a slew of Saints news. We've got Jameis Winston, not the solidified starter yet. We've got Michael Thomas saying there's problems with the slant ball, with the accuracies of him catching slants across the middle. We've got news, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray's, going to be getting used a lot early on. Is any of this news or snooze?
For the Saints, for Winston, snooze. I saw a stat that he still has more turnovers than anyone in the NFL, and he didn't play last year.
Since 2014.
Yeah, that's incredible. Snooze. And then no shit, Jameis Winston's inaccuracy will be a problem for Michael Thomas because he's not going to always hit his hands. He's not Drew Brees. Drew Brees is a very accurate passer. One of the best in the NFL history, to be honest. So those two are just snoozes for me. I don't really care. We'll see what happens. Michael Thomas, dude, you got paid. You got to figure it the fuck out. Larry Fitz would be dreaming to be in your position right now. But he had John Skeleton throwing touchdowns to him, and he figured it out. So if you really want to be considered one of the greats, you'll figure it out and still get your work done for sure.
All right. What about with Alvin Kamara? There's a lot of people that aren't buying into him. There's his stats regressed with Taysom Hill in the lineup, and I feel like people are kind of buying into that. If Taysom Hill is the quarterback, then Alvin Kamara is not going to be anything. If Jameis is there, then obviously everyone's value is down. Are you still buying Alvin Kamara?
I feel like Alvin Kamara would kind of fall in that sense. I think for the value that you could possibly get him at, if people really buy into this news, I think he could definitely be great because it's not like he went into that year last year thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna have Taysom Hill in the offense. He was kind of adjusting to the new offense that was being put into New Orleans.
Absolutely.
I think that Sean Payton is going to like they just paid him. Why would they take the ball away from him when literally like think about it? He had in the fantasy championship, he had like 52 points. Like for me, he housed me in the last game of the season, basically. So
I remember that.
I'm gonna be definitely buying into him, to be completely honest. Like he will figure it out too. I think Alvin Kamara is a lot better of a football player than Michael Thomas, but I hope Michael Thomas proves me wrong, but he definitely did not do well last year after getting a bag of money, and I wasn't really impressed with that.
Yeah, I'm not so interested in buying shares of Mike Thomas as I am Alvin Kamara, and I don't want any piece of the quarterback room there. No thank you to Taysom Hill. No thank you to Jameis. I think that's just going to be a mess all season long. But I think the most reliable option along the way will still be Alvin Kamara. And I realize why people are down on him. In the games that Taysom Hill was at quarterback, he had 50 rushing attempts, only 237 rushing yards. He did have 3 rushing touchdowns, but his yards per catch were cut in half from about 10 down to about 5.5 or so. He only had 10 catches on 16 targets. This is about through 4 weeks. But you know who did flourish? You know who had the best games of their season with Taysom Hill at quarterback, Nick?
Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas, his games was at week 10 versus Atlanta, 9 for 12, 104 receiving yards. Week 11 versus Denver, mind you, Taysom Hill only had 78 passing yards. Mike Thomas had 4 catches for 50 yards, 50 of that 28, or 78, I'm sorry. Week 12 versus Atlanta, again, 9 catches, 11 targets, 105 receiving yards. And then week 13, 8 catches for 8 targets, 84 yards. Mike Thomas is a Taysom Hill fan, it would appear.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, so I guess he's just championing for Taysom Hill. That's fine. I mean, if you have a better chemistry as a $100 million receiver with a better quarterback than what other people are saying, like, oh, Jameis Winston should get the thing. He's like, nah, man, like I had better games with Taysom Hill, and you guys just think he's a Tim Tebow. So that's very interesting, but I don't know. I you got to show me more Mike Thomas. Alvin Kamara showed me a lot last year, even considering everything that happened. He still was a very strong fantasy player, and he's still one of the top guys in the NFL. So I'm buying more Alvin Kamara than Mike Thomas until Mike Thomas shows me a consistency over one more year.
So will you take Alvin Kamara over Saquon Barkley?
Man, why do you make these questions? These are hard. Saquon, dang, man.
I'm going Alvin. I'm still going Kamara, and they're still going to be limiting Barkley's workload when he comes back right away. But when I'm looking at skill set, even in the long term, if you ask me who you're going to take in Dynasty, I would still take Kamara, just because the way that he's built, the system, the whole offense is built around him. He gets more volume than Michael Thomas. I know running backs, the shelf life is very limited, but he's not just a running back. He's also a receiver. His just workload is so consistent. What I'm betting on is there's more likelihood that they can fix the issues that Taysom Hill has with getting the ball to Kamara and passing than you can fixing Jameis Winston, period.
Correct. That's 100% correct.
So I feel like there's a higher likelihood there. So I'm still going to buy Kamara over Saquon. I am not going to buy him over Dalvin Cook. And I probably won't buy him over CMC. So he's probably still my third guy.
I'm going to say Kamara still, because you're right. He is a receiver. He gets some of the most receiving volume as like one of those top running backs. So I'm still going to go him. Saquon, they got to change up how they use him. Like they can't be driving him into the ground. They should really try and follow the blueprint that the Saints have for Alvin Kamara, just to get Barkley a little bit more longevity, because I think he's very electric. Like he was a kick returner in college, and he could easily take one to the house at any time. So
he was looking to break records. He was looking to break records. Like he wanted to be on the field for like everything. I remember watching a hype video for him where he's just like, he looks at all the awards on the wall, whatever. He's like, yeah, I'm going to break all of those. So
Yeah, and for me, it's like you should be able to adapt to the new type of NFL where you're not getting 250 touches on the ground, but you're getting 150 and then 80 receiving touches. That's a good volume, and you can do a lot of damage that way. And I think that Saquon is just as good at open field and as Alvin Kamara. And I think that they should start using him as more of a receiver and kind of take away that rushing load or bring in like a second running back that can be that goal line guy or something just to spell him a little bit. So you're not going to, wear him down so quickly, because the way that they're using him right now, his shelf life's like 4 or 5 years, and they got to figure that shit out.
No, they signed Raquel Armstead, big body guy.
But he had issues last year with COVID, didn't he?
Yeah, he was out a long time with COVID. Yeah. He got COVID extra or COVID, I don't know, extreme,
COVID
whatever.
Elite.
I think they call it long COVID. I'm still convinced that's what Jonathan Taves had. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
No, yeah, absolutely. But Raquel Armstead for me is like, all right, I understand you had those issues with COVID. I got to see how you do coming back. And I'm not saying that he's going to take any type of volume away from Saquon Barkley. Like, just put them on paper and see the stuff. And there's no way that he's going to take any away. But he can be used as a spell guy. And, I hope that he is used as that and kind of save those tough yards for someone else besides Saquon Barkley, who can break open a 50-yard gain at any time. Like he should be used more for those gains than using those tough yards for like 3 yards,
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's move on. We got some DJ Chark talk. We always love to talk up some DJ Chark around the Hizzy. Urban Meyer said, last year, 2020, big guy, but played little, big body, but little swag. Didn't come with it. So initially, before we even get into is this news or snooze, DJ Chark responded by putting on 7 pounds already.
Well, good for him. I think it was kind of like Urban Meyer finding like that young receiver, still being able to not exactly I don't think he's played small. I think his quarterback situation was kind of wacky, and he still did really well. So, Urban Meyer's just trying to find a way to fire him up, and Chark responded and the best way possible by trying to put on a little bit more weight. But for me, it's just kind of like you're kind of like talking to him like he's a college kid. I don't see him playing small in any kind of way. You got to look at the entire situation. I think even if you had Trevor Lawrence, he would have a very different season than what happened last year. So for me, snooze, but good for DJ Chark for putting on weight. I mean, it's always good to put on a little bit of weight. Marquise Brown apparently put on like 20 pounds and it didn't fucking matter. But I think 7 pounds for you will be all right.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't overdo it like Marquise Brown. You don't want to lose all your value. You don't want to gain 20 pounds and then drop 40 spots in our rankings.
He gained 20 pounds and lost Hollywood.
Yeah, right, exactly. Moved to Chino. I love the big guy but play little. It's very reminiscent of Jake Paul describing Conor McGregor. Yeah, big name, little guy. Thought that was funny. All right, so we're expecting then Chark's stock to rise or his production to rise with Trevor Lawrence, right?
I believe so.
So RotoWire has Trevor Lawrence projected at like 4,300 yards, 34 passing touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. That's a big haul. I don't know if that's realistic.
How many
or not.
touchdowns? How many touchdowns?
34. Yeah.
What? It's like he's like an all-pro dude. Like what the hell is this? I don't think any rookies had a season like that ever. 34 and 11, that's wild. Especially for Jacksonville.
As I run to Justin Herbert numbers.
Yeah, what did Justin do last year? Because that's a good comparison.
31 and 10. 31 and 10. It's a modern NFL. I don't know. I mean, I'm not expecting him to hit those numbers. I'm not expecting him to hit those numbers, but let's just say there's another 800 yards to go around this offense. It's not all going to go to Chenal. It's not all going to go to Marvin Jones or Etienne or Robinson. Yeah, I think we have to expect probably another 1,000 to 1,200 yards this season from Chark as long as he stays healthy. And to me, that was the biggest issue he had. Believe me, I'm very close to the situation. He was missing more time than was necessary. It was a little ridiculous. And in a lot of games, he was just left on an island. He had Glennon throwing to him. He had the other guy whose name is escaping me.
Jake Luton.
Jake Luton throwing to him.
I remember your hype up for him, man, because he's like 6'7" or something like that, and did absolutely nothing.
I hyped him up the week that he threw a touchdown on like the first or second play. Yeah. And then he was nothing. It was like, this guy's coming in and he's tall and his name isn't Mike Glennon. So
what
touchdown
was
props.
What was the worst hype up? Jake Luton or Ben DiNucci? For me, DiNucci.
Well,
because it was so memorable.
I never hyped up Ben DiNucci. I will watch every single tape. I never hyped up Ben DiNucci.
No, I wasn't saying that like you were hyping him up.
Okay.
Extreme, but like for me, like the way that Ben DiNucci came onto the scene, it was a lot more disappointing. His performance than Jake Luton.
Yeah,
it was Jacksonville. Like,
give me Jake Luton over Ben DiNucci every day, twice on Tuesdays or Sundays, even. I don't care, whatever. Yeah, no Ben DiNucci ever. No, I am expecting more things from Chark this year. As far as like his draft stock, let's see where he went here in his latest mock here. Looking after Mike Williams. I can't find him. 4th, 5th round? No, got to be later than that still. I don't know. It's not. I can't find it. I don't have it available. But I'm expecting a good year out of him. See if I have him up in my rankings. In my rankings, I have him at wide receiver. I just completely dropped him everywhere, apparently.
He no longer exists in the NFL.
I have him at 25, and that's smashed in between Kenny Golladay and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, he's 30 on these rankings that I'm seeing right now. Above Roby Anderson, below Cortland Sutton.
I got him a little higher than that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Getting a little caught up there at the end. Last up, or second to last up here, Rex Burkhead going to Houston. News or snooze?
Big snooze.
Snooze. Houston's done, man. I'm done with them. Done with the running back situation. Before I was like, I'll float around a David Johnson share here and there. I'll float around a Phillip Lindsay share. Someone's bound to get hurt here. You know, someone's bound to, rise to the top. No. You know, they're always going to have at least 2 dudes healthy. I'm out. I'm done.
You know what? It feels like that it happened because didn't Bill O'Brien like coach underneath Belichick?
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like they like opened up a safe and found all of Bill O'Brien's old notes on Bill Belichick, and they're like, "Oh man, since we don't know if we're gonna have Deshaun Watson, let's just follow this like 5-year-old model of a football team and see what happens." And Rex Burkhead was like at the top, and they're like, "Oh man, we got to get Rex Burkhead." Like,
I guess. Well, Bill's gone though.
No. I know. Like it's almost like the guy there found some old notes of Bill and was like,
it's Nick Caserio.
It's
Nick Caserio, the old GM from New England. So that's
there we go. Yeah. So I just feel like they're just trying to like scramble for pieces right now. I feel like Houston's going to be like a big JB team, like almost like as bad as the old Cleveland Browns and Detroit Lions. I'm out. I'm out everywhere there. There's no one accessible. Like I thought tight ends last year there were going to really pop off because Deshaun Watson. And it was literally like you pick up one, the other one went off. And then you grab that one, the other one went off. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, so I'm out. I'm out everywhere on there. Deshaun Watson is probably not going to play another down in there in Houston. So I'm out. It's a rebuild, complete rebuild. It's ground zero right now. And they're just picking up sticks. That's all they're doing.
I agree with you. I'm definitely staying away from the running back room. You might be able to twist my arm and get me to take a share of Brandon Cooks, though. You might be able to do it. I don't think it would be that hard, especially for his value. He's not being drafted very high, so for where he's at, not a lot of risk as a bench stash. So I will take a few shares of Cooks, but nobody else. No Cobb, no Kute, none of those tight ends. Actually, I think they lost one of them. Just Jordan Atkins is a starter now.
Still don't care.
Still don't care. No thanks. No thanks.
I'm out.
All right, and then last news or snooze. Zach Ertz, teams are interested. Is he staying?
I think it's insulting that he's still in Philadelphia. I don't understand what they're doing. It's kind of like a huge power play. They're kind of like setting the tone for like Zach Ertz was a very serviceable tight end there for years.
Great.
Yeah, he was great. Like he was one of the tops. But the way that they're doing him right now, like he's like in purgatory. Like he doesn't know like where he's gonna be, and they're kind of waiting till like the last goddamn second so that he can't learn a single goddamn play before the first game. Honestly, that's what I feel like it's like, because we've heard this since before the draft that he was going to be traded, and they still haven't pulled the trigger on it. And it's like, what exactly are you looking for? What exactly are you? Because I've heard they've been offered a couple things and they haven't taken it. I just don't know. For me, it's a snooze right now because we've been hearing about this literally a whole offseason.
Same thing. Snooze it for sure. Any favorite landing spots?
At this point, I don't freaking know, because it's just they said that Indianapolis was a big team in play because of the Frank Reich connection, Carson Wentz.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he still has the ability to be a number one tight end, maybe like a number two, like Vernon Davis. When he came to Washington, he was the number one, but he's more like a number two kind of guy. He couldn't carry an extreme load. So I don't know. It's some team that could possibly use him. I can see the Chiefs like trying to like pull him off somehow for something. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like Arizona. I like the Bills, Titans, Colts. I feel all those options would be solid. If the Titans don't get Julio, I think that's a good fill-in for Jonnu Smith. Like we just mentioned there, if Josh Reynolds is your number two quarterback, I think you could find a spot for Ertz there. The Bills and Arizona, they just don't have a guy. They just don't have an elite option, or really a guy that you could say is a number one. And the Chargers as well. I've heard that they're interested, so I could see them getting in the mix. You already have Jared Cook there, but not getting any younger. Zach Ertz also not getting any younger, but a couple nice little stopgaps at tight end if you want to run some double tight end sets. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate those.
All right, let's move on here. We're going to jump into our undervalued quarterback discussion. But before we do, please be sure to smash the like button, share the video, and follow us on youtube.com/take to the Hizzy. Let's go. All right, who's your first undervalued quarterback up? Guys that we're finding deeper in our drafts, whether it's two quarterback league, single quarterback league alike.
The one guy that I am completely willing to take a flyer on, like I did with Justin Herbert last year. Another Justin Fields. I feel like he is highly underrated because he still has Allen Robinson there, and I think that he is the passing quarterback that is needed in Chicago to take advantage of all their weapons to their full advantage. I think that he's not really going to have too much competition. The only thing possible that's going to stop him is health. If anything happens, then he'd be out. But right now he's pretty healthy. Andy Dalton is not going to be taking over his spot. I see Justin Fields basically taking the job day one and really utilizing Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, Tariq Cohen when he comes back. I see it being a great pickup in the later rounds.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Justin Fields actually made my list. He was Fantasy Pros quarterback 23 to Andy Dalton's 37. So obviously they're taking a good stand there, and I appreciate that. I'm into it. I'm buying it. And yeah, for a guy that's going at quarterback 18 to 22, 25, I mean, there's very little to no risk here. In Dynasty, obviously he's going to have a little bit more value as a younger quarterback, getting touted as, potentially the next Kyler, the next Russ Wilson, whatever it is. And he has the weapons, like you mentioned. He has a wide receiver one in Allen Robinson. He has a running back one in David Montgomery. David Montgomery finished top 5 last year in fantasy. He's got another receiver with untapped potential in Darnell Mooney. He's got the same thing in a guy like Cole Kmet, who I believe will threaten tight end one numbers this year. So the offense is there. He's got a good defense that can really put him in a position where he doesn't have to take a lot of risks. He won't have to be playing from behind in every game. The strength of schedule is a lot higher this year than in years prior. So there is going to be some challenges, especially week one up against a team like the Rams, right? I don't think Andy Dalton finishes that game. So, yeah, give me Justin Fields. I like him at the back end of drafts for sure. My next guy up, I've got Derek Carr, who is Fantasy Pros quarterback number 24. Is consistently throwing over 4,000 yards. Last year, he had a lot of progression with touchdowns and regression in interceptions, kind of more reminiscent to like his, I think it was his 2014 season. So he's coming along nicely. He just doesn't have any elite weapons other than Darren Waller. I feel like they just really need to get him another receiver, a team that should be well in play to try and land Julio Jones. Now, Julio Jones has said, "Hey, I want a big arm quarterback." I guess that's left up to interpretation. So I like Derek Carr a lot. Quarterback 24 doesn't cost you a lot. I think he is a great option as a super flex quarterback. Like he's a really solid add to be your number 2 guy as you try to level up pieces elsewhere. Position, wide receivers, running back, tight end, whatever.
I hope that Henry Ruggs kind of comes on, because I heard that Derek Carr said he's like the best player in practice, but I would love to see that he's the best player in the game. So I think that if Henry Ruggs starts unlocking his potential, Derek Carr's numbers are going to go through the roof.
Yeah, Brian Edwards too. I feel like everyone and their mother was on Brian Edwards last year, though. But like all the beat reporters, all the fantasy pundits, we were all like, "Oh yeah, this guy looks great in practice, not so much in a game, right? Like you look great in training camp, but not so much, when he actually got to week 1, week 2." So we'll see what happens there. Maybe Hunter Renfrow just takes off. I don't know. He's always a guy that we're talking about that just is always free. Who's your next guy?
My next guy is actually someone that is, I would consider in the higher tier, but he kind of like gets shitted on constantly. Kirk Cousins. I think that he's completely underrated. I don't have his numbers in front of me. I'm see if I can get these numbers really fast. But he has 2 number 1 wide receivers. He has Irv Smith coming on. He has a great running back game behind him. And he doesn't, let me see, the projections, 13 interceptions to 29 touchdowns. Like, that's not that many interceptions, and that's a lot of touchdowns. And also 4,300 passing yards. Like, that's good enough for me. Like, he might not have every single game where he pops off the page, and he might have some plays where it might be a little bit questionable. And also people are talking about Kellen Mond. They're like, "Oh, Kellen Mond's going to take the job." I don't think so.
I don't know about that.
I do like Kellen Mond, but Kirk Cousins is actually a great guy to like learn behind. And Kirk Cousins is kind of really only in it for the money. He tries to keep down his interception numbers so that he can always get the biggest bag possible for his next contract. And I think any team in the NFL would love to have a guy like Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, and allows them to take advantage of weapons around him. And I think that how Minnesota has been able to basically stay competitive, even though they get shitted on constantly. I'm pretty impressed with it. So Kirk Cousins is my underrated quarterback.
Yeah, it's not a bad value. I think he's going as like quarterback 16, 15, something like that.
It was top of tier 4, 16.
Yeah, so it's not bad. Not a guy that I'm prioritizing to be my super flex quarterback, but if you get him in a nice mixture of 3 guys, if you get if you get Derek Carr, Cousins, and a guy like Kyler Murray, I think that's a good little mix. To just let Carr and Cousins handle the bye weeks, or just the matchups, just go back and forth with whoever's got a juicier opponent that week. I wouldn't hate that. But I think that you kind of want him in some type of committee like that, especially because he never shows up in prime time, and they're going to be playing on Monday and Sunday and Thursday nights. I don't know what Kirk Cousins' deal is, but he just doesn't deliver under the lights. I don't get it. Very much a daytime quarterback. Give me the noon starts for Cousins. All right. Yeah. All right. My next guy and our last guy up here. I know Nick's not going to like this one, but going Jimmy Garoppolo, going with some homegrown Eastern Illinois flavor here. He is Fantasy Pros quarterback 33. Trey Lance, who they just drafted, is at quarterback 31. So they're not really planting a flag here. Lance may be a little bit better just because he's a dual threat type of quarterback, but he's got to get on the field first. And Jimmy Garoppolo was at quarterback 13. That puts him at right atop of quarterback 2 position in 2019, 2 years ago. And I feel like a lot of people disrespected him last year, but I don't really think it's fair. I don't. He started off the year not that bad. His first 2 games, he had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's just that in that second game up against the Jets, he got hurt. And so did Nick Bosa. And so did Raheem Mostert. And so did Solomon Thomas. Everybody just died. Those 4 in particular, though, they all had knee injuries. I don't know. I think there was even some issues with the Jets field or something like that. They were doing an investigation into it because just so many players had gotten hurt. I listed 4. I think there was 9 or 10 that day that were injured. Obviously, those were the 4 most prominent: Mostert, Thomas, Bosa, and Garoppolo.
Oh, Julio just got traded to Tennessee as we speak for a second-round pick.
Julio!
Wow.
Let's go.
That's like the first time we've broken news in a long time. We were literally just talking about that. That's crazy.
And Josh Reynolds has crashed another 15 positions in my rankings. He is now wide receiver 75, right behind Van Jefferson.
If everybody stays healthy, Tennessee's going to the Super Bowl. Like, everybody stays healthy, Tennessee goes to the Super Bowl. Like, it's going to be Tennessee and Tampa Bay. Tampa has the best continuity in the NFC. This is basically set in stone almost.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We just broke some news there. That was fun.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's awesome.
That is good stuff. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that offense a lot more now. I think I do have to actually also back down in that same breath some AJ Brown ground here. Like I literally have him at wide receiver 3. I think I got to knock him back a bit. You know, I have Julio at wide receiver 12. Yeah, wide receiver 12 right behind Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I necessarily move him up. I might move up Terry McLaurin a spot ahead of him. I might. Because it's a run heavy offense still, and that's not what the Falcons were. I don't think that we can expect 130 targets, 120 targets this year for Julio. I think it's more like in that 100 to like 115 range. What do you think?
I think it's absolutely possible to have like 120, 130 targets for 2 wide receivers and still have 1,000-yard rusher.
Right.
Pittsburgh had been doing it for years.
Henry's not just 1,000-yard rusher though. He's like 14, 15 easy.
But he's not like getting 14 to 15 with just 3-yard plays every single time. He breaks open huge chunks of yardage a lot of times, and either he's going for a touchdown or just it's only one play. Like it's not going to take 12 different plays to get him 68 yards. He can bust that in like 3-4 plays. And that's a lot different than how how Pittsburgh was, but they still had like 1,000-yard receivers like, Santonio Holmes, Hines Ward, Heath Miller even. So I think it's absolutely possible for AJ and Julio to definitely be number 1 wide receivers in this offense.
Yeah, I'm still probably going to move Julio out a little bit, maybe to like 14. No, probably 13 or 14, because I'll still keep him probably ahead of Amari Cooper. I'll still have him ahead of Amari Cooper. Robert Woods, still going to keep him behind Julio. Yeah, I think the only person I move up is just Terry. They're just not as much of a run heavy offense as Tennessee. That's fun though. That's good stuff. Back to Garoppolo.
Sorry, didn't mean to take away from your hometown.
No, that's all good. It's all good. Anyways, Jimmy Garoppolo was quarterback 13 in 2019. He was quarterback 10 for deep ball accuracy. Last year, to start the year, like I said, after game 2, he gets hurt. To start the year, his best receivers were Trent Taylor and Kendrick Bourne. He didn't have Debo. Brandon Ayuk didn't start week 1. He got Ayuk and his opener at week 2, and then he got hurt after that. And then Kittle got hurt the week after that when Jimmy was hurt. He comes back. They play a terrible game up against Miami. If anything, that's like the sorest spot for Garoppolo. He has a terrible game up against Miami. Again, people are just getting back. I think Kittle may have been missing that game, but Debo was back. Ayuk, again, still really fresh, still really young, but they're still getting it done. The following week, he throws up 3 passing touchdowns, 260 passing yards on the Rams. He beat the Rams last year, Jimmy Garoppolo. No interceptions in that game. He then follows that game with the Patriots game. He looked good, but he threw 2 interceptions. It wasn't great. But he was returning to New England. Bill had his number. I think they still won the game. They still beat the Patriots. And then the next week he plays Seattle and he hurts the ankle again. That's it. And I feel like when you look at those numbers and they extrapolate them, they're like, oh, he should have only had like 3,000 passing yards. The touchdowns weren't there. It's like, well, who was there? Look at this offense now. It looks so much better. Healthy Debo, healthy Ayuk, healthy Kittle. You have Mostert there. Obviously, we got Jeff Wilson hurt, but you look at Trey Sermon. He's looking good coming in. They got Elijah Mitchell. Couldn't get that out. Elijah Mitchell, a later draft pick. There's a lot of excitement at the running back position. If you look what they did with limited offense last year to start the year, they were getting a lot out of the running backs, and I'm a big buyer in all those guys. The running backs, Garoppolo this late at quarterback 33, you'll get him for free. You get him for free.
Why do you think that San Francisco drafted Trey Lance then? Because
they've definitely been shopping Garoppolo. I mean, they don't believe in him for the future, but he's going to be the week 1 starter. So as long as he doesn't lose his job, if he does everything he's supposed to, and they're winning games, it could be a tougher job to earn for Trey Lance.
I think that like what you say is absolutely true. It's just that they've drafted a quarterback very highly, and I think that is no longer if Jimmy fails or not. It's more if Trey Lance grasps the offense quicker or not. And I think that absolutely Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be number 1. He did have impressive stats when he wasn't, but either they're expecting him to get hurt or Trey Lance to pick up the offense very quickly. If he does that, Jimmy G is kind of like out. So he did have
a high ankle sprain. So that was the injury.
Oh yeah,
and he didn't deal with it the same as George Kittle did. Like George Kittle came back really quick, really fast. Jimmy, he came back after a couple of games, but then he re-injured again. And I think that one is the big issue is that and Jimmy has a no trade clause either. So like if they're going to move on for him, he's gonna have a say about it. Trey Lance, I just think he's the best insurance policy. I feel like they see a future for him there, but we're just talking about 1 year here. And in Dynasty, Trey Lance is the pick. But like I said, if Trey Lance is at quarterback, 31, and Garoppolo is at 33, like I said, even the pros aren't taking a stance on it. No one's saying like, oh yeah, absolutely, you gotta move Lance ahead because he's going to be in there more sooner than later. I don't think so. Trey Lance only played couple of games this past year in 2020 because of the COVID situation in college football. He may not be as fresh. He may not be as ready. Even if he's picking up the offense, even if he looks better in practice, as long as they're winning games and Garoppolo's putting up numbers, I just don't see him getting pulled. They'll let the kid, sit back and learn like we've seen many great quarterbacks do.
I just don't see Jimmy lasting the entire season like that. And I see that it's going to be a continued problem of his health. Like, it's not like he's having major injuries, but enough to keep him out for extended periods of time. I think that they took Trey Lance expecting to be able to unload Garoppolo pretty quickly. And they really couldn't. And now they're kind of like shit. Like if this blows all up in their face, Lynch is kind of like on the hot seat for me because he kind of struck out with Solomon Thomas. He let Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner walk to the Colts. And he has some success as the GM, but it's really not been like, oh, yeah, like I can say John Lynch really built this team. It really was just like pieces showing up and coming above their value to be able to help the team and get them to a Super Bowl appearance. So that's kind of how I feel. We will see what happens at the quarterback situation in Jimmy G. Not that I don't believe in him. It's just been a real tough situation for someone with a no trade clause. I don't know. I'm not impressed with that move, drafting a quarterback, even though you have a really highly paid quarterback and with a no trade clause.
Absolutely. And I agree with you on a lot of those fronts. I like Trey Lance a lot. I just feel like it's going to be more difficult for him to earn the job quickly, as fast as like a Justin Fields, or obviously he's not getting on the field week 1 like Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. So I'm definitely going to value those guys a lot higher for sure, especially in dynasty, redraft, whatever it is, just because they're getting that opportunity more sooner than later. With Trey Lance, I feel like it's a bigger question mark, and I feel like with the way that their team is built, they don't necessarily need him to start right away because Jimmy does know the offense more. He is still more familiar with it. I think Jimmy still deserves a shot with everybody healthy because he had a great season in 2019. Last year, he started the year with a decimated roster. Everybody got hurt. This is a guy that, that 2019 season went to the Super Bowl. Obviously, it was on the backs of a strong running game and defense. But nonetheless, he was still their guy. They've given him a big deal. He's got a no-trade clause. He's got a lot of things going for him, actually. If he shows up and he puts up the numbers, it could be a long wait for Trey Lance. We'll see. All right, let's jump into it. We got the lightning round here for trust or bust. Going through a flex edition here. We're just going to go by some positions here, position players only, and then we're going to kick it out of here. Been a good show so far. Kareem Hunt, Nick, trust or bust?
Trust.
taking him? You're comfortable drafting him this year?
Yeah.
I'm going to stay away this year. I was a big buyer last year. I'm going to go bust. And this just really just a bust based on his value. I think he's rated at like running back 23 through 25, something like that on Fantasy Pros. I'm probably going to have him a little bit farther back. He'll have a role there, but I just feel like we're going to get a healthier Nick Chubb this year. And I feel like, he's just going to be in the driver's seat. I don't know if we're going to see 2 top 15 running backs again. And that's, a difficult feat to duplicate back-to-back years. So I'm going to say bust this year just based on his draft position. If you get him later, like somewhere between, running back 34 through 37, I feel like that value is a lot better. But it's a very deep position this year. So I'm going to stay away from him. I'm going to go bust. Next up, Josh Jacobs, trust or bust? Trust. I'm going to go opposite again. I'm going to go bust again, just for that draft value. I feel like he's going in that 14 to 16 range. And again, with a guy like Kendrick Drake there, that's going to be eating at his value. I'm just not all about it. I think we all want him to catch more passes every year, right? Like we were talking earlier, they don't ever add a receiver. They haven't added a big name receiver since Antonio Brown. Obviously that didn't pan out, but I just don't see him taking a big leap forward with another guy just kind of eating at his workload.
I think he's. No, it's not that I like Drake. I like Josh Jacobs a lot.
Okay.
I mean, shit. Like John Gruden had 1,000-yard fullback rusher, Mike Allscott, back in the day. I think that he kind of sees Josh Jacobs in that bigger running back role. Be that 1, 2, first down, second down, sometimes third down if it's short enough. Kind of running back. Kenyon Drake is going to be probably more of a spell guy plus a third down back. I see him having a lot more receiving possibilities, but I see that Josh Jacobs is still going to get his workload and get his yardage. So I'm going to still trust him.
Right. I don't know, man. For a guy that I would like to see getting 280, close to 300 touches, I just can't see it with Drake there.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right, next up we got Mike Davis. Trust or bust?
He's in Atlanta. I'm gonna say trust. There's really no competition there. I think he's a really good running back. I'm glad that he's getting that starting role. He filled in admirably for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he was a great streaming option or a pickup if you actually got him. So I'm definitely trusting him.
There's no competition whatsoever. Cordell Patterson, Quadri Olison.
What about Cordell? You're not trusting him?
How about that Cordell? I think Javian Hawkins is more likely to threaten for touches than any of those guys, to be honest with you. Cordell on a couple of end-around reverses. He's just not a guy that you can rely on to be your running back. He's just a gadget. How to use him. He's just a gadget player. But I do trust Mike Davis. He's going as running back 24. Kareem Hunt was at 23, like I mentioned. If you're asking me between him and Kareem Hunt, I'm going Mike Davis. The name's not as sexy. but the workload should be there. Rip the name off the back of the jersey.
That's my last name. That's not my brother's name. That's my brother's name, Mike Davis. It's pretty interesting, but
that's fun.
Yeah.
I was just saying, look at the opportunity. That's all. All right, moving on to wide receiver. Chase Claypool, trust or bust?
I'm gonna say trust. I think that he built a little bit of chemistry with Ben Roethlisberger. Ben does reward guys that show up and do give him production. So I'm gonna say trust.
Yeah, I trust him a lot, especially for his value. He's at wide receiver 33. It's great value. You're going to be a nice little bench stash for you. You don't have to really risk it. And if he does wind up being in your flex to start the year, I don't think you're in a bad situation. I think he takes a step forward. Obviously, after he hit his really big production numbers, we saw definitely a regression and decline there. But that's just because there's a lot of mouths to feed. But I feel like he's going to keep himself on the field more this year, just with the extra experience, the more familiarization with the playbook. I feel like he's going to be a guy that we want to own in fantasy. And honestly, I'm more excited about grabbing him at his value than I am Juju Smith-Schuster. Deontay Johnson, I really like a lot. He's my wide receiver 17. So I'm definitely someone that I'm targeting for sure. But I will take Claypool over Juju for sure. Definitely has a future there. It's just the wide receiver school of Pittsburgh, right? We always see guys just take big leaps and bounds there. So I'm a big fan, Notre Dame fan. So I'm a homer with that pick as well.
They spread they have a lot of weapons. Like, it's not like they have like a number one, a number two, a number three. They have like a lot of twos, and it kind of makes it hard to really concentrate on one of them because the ball can go to either of them. And it also helps that they have picked up didn't they pick up Freiermuth from Penn State? He's more of a receiving threat, I feel like, than Eric Ebron, even though Ebron has all the athletic skills. His hands still kind of have stone-like qualities to them.
They'll both be used. They'll both be used.
They're definitely going to be used, but I think Freiermuth is going to be kind of like a little bit of a standout because Roethlisberger likes his tight ends, and he's kind of been looking for that skillful receiver tight end. So we will see how it goes, but I'm still hopeful for all the receivers in that offense because there's really no one that stands head and shoulders above, but they can all get their volume at any time.
To me, Deontay Johnson is the most consistent piece. He's the guy that I would want the most out of that core for sure. All right, next up, Mike Williams out of Los Angeles Chargers. Trust or bust?
I'm gonna say trust. Now that we know that Julio is not available and he is not going to Los Angeles, I've liked Mike Williams since he's came into the league. He had that scary neck injury in college, so kind of like I feel like it kind of hampered him when he came in because he hadn't played. But he's been slowly coming on, becoming a great number 2 next to Keenan Allen, and he's not going to be the one concentrated on. But he's a big body receiver, and Herbert can get the ball to him. So I'm gonna say trust for Mike Williams.
I don't know. I'm feeling more Jalen Guyton this year. He was I think he was like top 5 in snap percentage last year, but just didn't get the same amount of looks. So he was on the field a lot as a young receiver. Mike Williams I like a lot, but he's just really just foot in the dirt. I'm going deep. He doesn't have that same like route tree versatility, in my opinion, as a guy like Jalen Guyton. So I'm going to say bust for Mike Williams this year. I'm a fan. I like him a lot. I was a buyer of him last year. Once Herbert became the starter, I wanted to get every bit of that offense that I could. There's just a lot of weeks I felt underwhelmed by his performance and his production. And I feel like we're still going to get a lot of Eckler, a lot of Keenan Allen this year. And I am putting my foot down. I'm going to plant the flag. Jalen Guyton's going to take a step forward, and I think he's going to outproduce Mike Williams. Maybe not in the touchdown department because Mike Williams, he's a big go up and get it type of target, got a big body frame, can definitely have some leverage and some more usage in the red zone. But for catches, yardage, I'm going to say Jalen Guyton outproduces him. So I'm going to say bust for Williams this year.
Fighting words.
Yeah, we'll see. I like him a lot. But I just like some of the emergence of these younger pieces on some of these teams. This next one. Oh, go ahead.
With Justin Herbert, anything's possible. He looked very strong last year. I don't see him being like a guy that just focuses on one guy and really tries to work through his progressions and find any receiver. So if Guyton can get open, I fully believe that he can outproduce Mike Williams. Yep,
absolutely. So next up, we got Henry Ruggs. Talked about a little bit up earlier. Trust or bust?
This is my bust. He's got to show me more. He's an Alabama receiver. All of his buddies have been doing pretty good. They all have, still pretty high stock, but he obscured to the background, man. He really fell back. He's got a good quarterback. If he's got a good quarterback, it's really his production and what he needs to work on. Maybe he needs to work on his route running. I'm not really sure what the issue is. It's also injuries too. So for me, it's a bust right now. I need to see a lot more speed in a Raider uniform. Doesn't do exactly too well. Darius Hayward-Bay, there's a bunch of guys that haven't panned out. Antonio Brown, he barely even touched the field. I'm skeptical for Raider wide receivers.
Yeah, I feel the same. I want to say bust as well because I feel like he can still have a better season from last year, but not necessarily be completely fantasy relevant. He's Fantasy Pros wide receiver 61. Let me see if I can pull him up where I have him. I think I have him maybe a little bit better than that. I think that might be a little bit too low. Let me see. Mr. Ruggs. Oh, I must have buried him too. Yeah, I have him at 65. Yeah, so I have him actually later than them. And that's just because, like I said, I feel like he's going to have a little bit of a better season last year, but it won't be fantasy relevant. Well, if you draft this guy, you're going to be riding the peaks and valleys of his performances and just the way that they cut up their target shares, between these receivers, Darren Waller. It's just not appetizing. He's really just, kind of uses that decoy to stretch the field, get some pass interference calls here and there, and just move the chains. So he's not a guy that I believe is going to be a big target hog in that offense. So I'm going to say bust as well.
I trust Hunter Renfrow more than Ruggs.
Better hands, honestly. Better hands.
Yeah,
it's true.
love
and it's true.
Renfrow down there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll close it down with the tight ends here. Trust or bust, Austin Hooper.
Bust. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
I'm going to go bust just because. Well, you got Harrison Bryant there that steals some touchdowns every now and again. I feel like there's just too much hype from his time in Atlanta. Maybe he got overpaid. Stole some money from Cleveland there. I'm not sure. I'm not really high on him in general. So I'm just going to go bust. And just the passing for that offense just isn't very appetizing. I think Baker's thrown for like 3,500 in back-to-back seasons or close to that, 3,600. So that volume just isn't very appetizing to me. Next up, we got Noah Fant. Trust or bust?
I hate this question. I'm going to go trust. I hope he figures out his health issues because, man, he would get like a 32-yard reception. I'd be all pumped, and then I'd be like, wait a second, why has he gotten any production since then? And he tore his ACL or whatever, or hurt his ankle or something. I don't know. It was a very tough year last year. I love his talent. I love where he's at. I love his ability, but I'm very scared for his health. But if he can stay healthy, I'm trusting him. So I'm going to say trust. Based
on his draft position or his ranking, whatever, Fantasy Pros has him as tight end 8. I'm going to say bust. That's just too high. Too high. That's way too high for me. Guys that they have behind him that I will absolutely 1,000% draft ahead of him: Mike Gesicki, Irv Smith Jr., Robert Tonyan, Logan Smith. Heck, I'll take Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith, one of the Patriot tight ends, over him, just because he can't stay healthy. He can't stay on the field. If we're playing Madden and we're turning the injuries off, give me Noah Fant. I'll take him. He's mine. Awesome. But that's just not the reality here. The injury history, the lack of confidence at the quarterback position with Locke and Bridgewater, we're not sure what we're going to get there. We're looking for some progression out of Judy. We're looking for Sutton to really emerge as that wide receiver 1. I'm going to be lower on him. With Sutton being out last year, I think there was a lot of reasons to be higher on him, or to probably sell him while you could, to be honest. But it's just the rough waters of that space, and I don't want to deal with it, especially for Noah Fant being tight end 8. That's just way too high.
Way high.
Some deeper names I like still. Cole Kmet, who I'm really high on this year. Eric Ebron in Pittsburgh. A lot of people are forgetting about him because of that Freiermuth draft pick. Gerald Everett with Seattle. Jared Cook with the Chargers, and that's just in redraft, not in dynasty. OJ Howard, I think, is going to have a good year in Tampa, coming back from injury. I think Jack Doyle is still a live option as long as they don't trade for Zach Ertz in Indianapolis. So I like a lot of these back end options. The price is just way too high for Fant for me right now.
I agree.
Last one up, I've kind of tipped my hand at this one, is Irv Smith Jr. Trust or bust?
I'm gonna say trust. He really came on even with Rudolph there last year. And Kirk Cousins has had success with tight ends in the past. So he's not gonna be completely basically oblivious to the quarterback. I'm gonna say trust Irv Smith. I was impressed on how he came on. So
yeah, just gonna have all the availability in the world. No Kyle Rudolph to block him off from targets, touches, snaps, whatever. You have those great receivers there. You have a great running game. Sky's the limit for Irv Smith. I feel like he has top 5 potential, because he could be looking at a situation where he just gets a whole mess of touchdowns this year in that red zone with that offense, because you have 3 really high priority targets in Jefferson, Thielen, and Cook. Oh, hey, look, there's Irv. Walk-in touchdowns. Not saying it's going to happen. He's going to have over 10, but the opportunity and likelihood is a lot higher than some of these other guys that are getting drafted around him, like Gesicki, Tonyan, Higbee, Evan Ingram. I feel like his touchdown percentage or opportunity should be through the roof in that offense. So he's definitely a guy I trust that I'm buying right now. Whether it's now, as we get closer to Labor Day, whatever it is, I'm going to be all in on Irv Smith. All right, we're going to close out the show here. We are a betting network, so we are going to get a bet on here. Comeback player of the year, 2021. Who's your guy, Nick?
For me, I'm going to be logical and say Dak, because it's a quarterback-driven league. My sneaky pick, Derwin James.
Okay, that guy that's very sneaky.
That guy has not played it down in the NFL in the past 2 years, and I still love his ability. I love Florida State players. He was electric there. He was electric when he came in. Everybody's forgetting about him. I think that he can do something special. Like, honestly, I think that he could maybe have 5 interceptions and like maybe get 10 sacks. Like, he's that kind of like player. That would be kind of like how crazy of a season it would have to be for him to like get comeback player of the year. But that's my sneaky pick. But I think Dak's going to win it unless he really fails in production.
You're not going with Tim Tebow at plus 2,000?
I don't give a shit about Tim Tebow. It makes me mad.
They're making money down. Why? They're making money down there. They're selling jerseys. They got the hype machine is rolling in Jacksonville.
It makes a mockery. It makes a mockery of like some of the guys that have like spent a lot of years working hard. And there's a lot of guys that are retired now being like, yo, if I can come back, if Tebow can come back and do a different position, I can come back and do a different position. And I fully believe them. Like Brandon Jacobs was like, dude, I'm a defensive end. Like, sign me up. And I'm like, get your shit, King. Like, do your stuff. That's just stealing money. They shouldn't even put him on there. That's stealing money.
I don't know, man. What does he have to do to earn this award? How many touchdowns?
He needs to win
10?
He needs to win Super Bowl MVP. Like, he needs to throw every
quarterback.
touchdown.
As the quarterback?
No, as the tight end. That's what he needs to do. He needs to win Super Bowl MVP as the tight end to win comeback player of the year, and that's absolutely impossible in Jacksonville. So there's no way he's going to do it.
That'd be funny though. I loved him on this list. Let's see. I'm going to go with CMC. CMC could just have a normal CMC year, just win comeback player of the year. Pretty easy. If I'm going quarterback, I'll stick with my take on this show. I'll go with Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jimmy Garoppolo has a 2019 season, he will win comeback player of the year.
I can see Joe Burrow winning it also.
How do you be comeback player of the year in your sophomore year? Like, what the hell?
I mean, he blew his knee to smithereens. So
I know, but you didn't even have you really arrived if you haven't finished one full season? Can you come back? What are you coming back from? Half a season? Like, come on. Like,
I mean, he did. I was very happy with his performance, and we got kind of like, gypped in the final part of the season. I think that if he leads Cincinnati to the playoffs, I'm not saying that's impossible, but that's a very tall order, and that would definitely be comeback player of the year worthy. So I see Joe Burrow doing that.
Yeah, I like Joe Burrow. I would like Joe Burrow more than Dak, just because I feel like the easy option, like right now, like this time of year, I feel like who was this option last year? Like Ben Roethlisberger. Pretty sure
Alex Smith. No. This time last year. And then someone just came out of nowhere, like an Alex Smith.
So I feel like it's going to be something like that. Like, it's going to be one of these position players, because we're all going to be expecting a quarterback. Dak is like the guy right now. It's June 6th. I mean, obviously we got some time here. So I think it's going to be one of these guys that sneaks in. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's Tim Tebow. I don't know. Maybe Jacksonville just goes off the rails with like 12 wins this year, and Tim Tebow's got 70 catches, 800 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I don't know.
What about Tyrod Taylor?
No, not Tyrod Taylor. No.
He's going to steal the award.
No, not Tyrod Taylor. Why is Odell Beckham Jr. on this list? Like, what in the world? No, absolutely not. I do like what
Kyle Long.
No, he's not my boy anymore. He said deuces. I'm out for now until he becomes retired again. He's a competitor. He's competition. I like Laurent Duvernay Tardif from the Chiefs. Isn't he the guy that like took off for COVID?
Yeah. Well, he's a doctor.
What does he got to do? Like what does a lineman got to do to become comeback player of the year at plus 1,400?
I don't know. Like he's got to be the guy in the Patrick Mahomes highlights every time where he's blocking for him and Mahomes does a crazy play. Like, I think that he's got to have like 10 or more of those highlights, and I think he's in there for comeback player of the year.
Yeah, don't hedge your bets with Duvernay Tardif, because he's not going to win comeback player of the year. I couldn't believe he was on the list. That was very surprising to me. All right, that's it. Nick's taking the odds favorite at Dak Prescott. I'm going to take, and that's plus 250. I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey at plus 850. It's a quarterback-driven league. It's a quarterback type of award. We'll see what we get. So, you got anything to close it down with, Nick?
Hold your Doge.
Go buy some. It's on sale right now.
And your
I
AMC.
bought some right. I bought some right before that last little surge. Obviously, it came back down, but I was happy about that.
It's not even on Coinbase yet. It's only on the Pro, so it's still got to be released to 54 million more people. If you're able to get the AMC like I did, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So hold that shit too. And yeah, that's all I got.
All right, cool. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll be back for 150 for Ticket to the Hizzy Fantasy Hockey. Have a good rest of the weekend, guys. Take care.
See you guys.